Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Expresso. Dan Vaughn with you as we check our audio. We always do that right here, Thursday. Let's just see how we sound here. Yeah, we do. I love hearing myself in delay. Good afternoon, good morning to you. Good morning for us, the broadcast crew, team crew. We know where we're at, right? You know exactly where we're at today. Right there. There we go. Well, these are nice mornings. These are really good mornings when you wake up and you've got a W in the column, and it was one of those uh, ball games last night, a walk-off winner, final 8-7. Uh, a few more runs than you scored lately, but again, we've talked about this at length, that that's the kind of game you're going to have to win the postseason. Close ones, walk-off games, one-run winners, clutch bullpen work. Got a little trouble early in that Max Murphy inning in the fourth inning, which you've kept him in check the entire series until then. You can't keep him down entirely. So I think overall, that's the kind of ball game you're going to have in the postseason. Maybe a little more runs than you used to, but hey, nip and tuck, key bullpen work. And I thought it was great to see Brandon Brosher get a win in relief, only working the one out. Because how many times has Brandon been out there gutting it out in those innings that you don't really see? He's not getting a save or a win in relief. He's out there getting those crucial outs. And last night got rewarded. You see me looking. I'm watching the KC 135s, the tankers. They're flying today, and so and they're going to the north. So usually they go out south. So I'm kind of watching them fly around us here over. So they come out of the airfield over there to our left, which is about mile and a half west of us here. Anyway, a lot to be really excited about this morning. I want your questions, your comments as well. That's what we do here. Maybe it'll pull up the highlight from last night as well and get that to you. It was great to have Connor in the booth last night. Finally got really one of those games that Connor and I kind of could, the result was good. The flow was good. There was a little action for both of us in the ball game. And Connor's just a really good dude and been a real good steward of this brand for a number of years. And just be happy to have him up there a couple times a week when we're home. And he doing great work with the Musketeers now. And he's going to be doing some hockey on the air over there, which is really exciting for him. But, again, just good to have him up there, and just all worked out well last night. So what happened last night around the league, as we're all in that intra-division matchups, right? Well, Kansas City playing Sioux Falls last night, and then the other matchup was the Fargos and Lincoln. Now, Lincoln took game number 2 actually it's game 3 because they had the makeup game, but game 2 of the series, 3 of the matchup, let's call it that, last night, and they rolled, I believe it was 10-1. Sioux Falls and Kansas City last night got evened up. An extra inning ball game. It was more of a Sioux City type game, close ball game. The offense is not the calling card last night. 4-3 the final for Sioux Falls. They get the extra inning win on the road. Here's a challenge. Kansas City trailed 3-1 most of the ball game, tied it up, I believe, in the 8th. They go the 9th, neither team scores. Then the Falls get that run in the 10th inning, and they get the win last night. So they take game 2 of that series. And, of course, the X's winning last night 8-7. So what's that do to the standings currently? I'll get you those immediately here because those are all fresh and updated this morning in the Journal or on the website or whatever. Kansas City 47-34, Sioux City 44-38, Lincoln 41-41. That's 3.5 back for Sioux City. Get to that in a moment. 6.5 back for the Lincolns, and then it's Sioux Falls 7 back, 41-42. They're still below 500. As good as they played, that just shows you how far behind they were to get to within a game of 500. They can get that tonight. But they're one below. Then Fargo 39-43, Winnipeg 34-48, 13.5 back, 8.5 back for Fargo. So let's start things off with the first knee jerk that Connor and I had last night. It's not a foregone conclusion this division's won yet. You're seeing Milwaukee come back to the pack in that East division. They have a 3-game lead over Chicago. Chicago's very much, in a good spot right there, which means those last weekend ball games probably going to mean a lot. So don't count on playing 4, but playing 5 there in Chicago. That's just going to happen, it looks like, the way things are stacking up. It also means 2 weeks' time, which will be, a fortnight, Tuesday week. Is that right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, yes, in Kansas City, could mean a lot. Now, granted, both teams may already have clinched a playoff spot, but the division still may be up for grabs. And with 3 head-to-head, Kansas City needs to keep that 3.5, 4-game lead to avoid getting swept. And, they stay 3 up. They lose all 3, or they lose because they don't have the head-to-head. So Kansas City's very dire to stay 4, 4.5 up, and they got a little room for error. I just think a lot what Sioux Falls is doing, Sioux City's doing a little quieter, because Sioux City's done it a little bit longer this year and also in a couple different stints. But the way the X's are doing it, not as fun. I mean, no one finds great pitching very sexy. Home runs, lots of offense, that's fun. That fills seats. That makes people happy. But great pitching, only us purists really enjoy that. And I think Mongo and Bobby Post would be very much in line with that too. So currently, if we begin the postseason today in the West, Kansas City still the number 1 seed. And the question I asked yesterday, who would they pick? I mean, I asked Connor that last night. He's like, not knowing the particulars of their scouting reports, but I would say, I don't know what they would do. Would you take a 1-game series in Sioux City or Sioux Falls, where you got to win just 1 on the road and then come back and got 2 cracks at them? Do you go to Lincoln, who you had success against last year in the postseason, but they've knocked you around at home this year at their place? I don't know what you do. I think what Kansas City's hoping for is that Fargo gets hot, makes the game and a half up, and sneaks in, because they'd pick Fargo every day. Even though Fargo and them played last 2 years in the postseason in high leverage games, they'd take that in a heartbeat. It's a longer trip. I think you'd go that route in a heartbeat. And it may come down to what they decide, hey, shorter trip. And that's what I would think usually would be the story. This is a different season for them. They don't really have an upper hand against anybody in the division, which is very odd, because they've played really good baseball. 47 wins, lead the division. But Kansas City doesn't scare Connor and I or anybody else, for that matter, like they have before. And they're good. Don't get me wrong. They can very easily go that and win every game in the postseason. Okay? So don't want you to sit there, and I'm not telling you they're bad, because you have to go out there and play your best to beat them. And even then, you might not beat them. But you beat them playing your best. So there's that. But, I don't think the fear of them last year was there. 2021, that team was loaded. I would say it's a lot like the 2018 reverse it here. In 18, Sioux City had the better regular season record and really played good in August, but both teams played good in August. I think over all the course of the year, Sioux City was the better club, but in the postseason, anything can happen. So, I mean, there's a lot of exciting storylines ahead of us, but I would just tell you that you feel pretty good about where you sit in relation to everybody in the division. Now, yeah, you got Sioux Falls and Lincoln behind you. They're going to take care of their business. You're going to take care of yours. And like I talked about on Monday and on Tuesday, and Mongo and I talked about it, taking care of your business was huge. You've done that. You've won 2 of 3 against Winnipeg. Now you're playing on house money. You sweep this series. Sioux Falls happens to stumble tonight. They wouldn't taken care of their business. It doesn't mean the series isn't very important this weekend, but it does give you a little more room for error this weekend. Does that make sense? It'll be tough this weekend. You're not going to go up there and roll right along and close your eyes and roll the ball out there and win 3 ball games. But I think you got 1 or 2 in you, and it's going to be a battle up there, because that's a tough place to play. It has been over the years for this club and for this franchise, and we know what that ballpark does. So anyway, some knee jerks from last night, and again, Coconut's really good. They asked me what you want first, coconut or the other one, the Explorers. I said, well, coconut's gotten us 3 wins in a row, so I'll go with coconut. Don't change anything, right? Let me bring this down here. We're glad you're along. I'm glad you're along. X's Expresso here, the knee-jerk section of the show. Just kind of what I thought last night, what Connor thought last night. And again, playoff type ball game again. Same kind of thing you're going to see in the postseason. Not a foregone conclusion. You won't catch Kansas City. That's still very much in play, where maybe it wasn't 2 weeks ago or even a week ago. And I think the third thing, we didn't really talk about it, but I will tell you that now that last weekend, I mentioned it, may mean more than you think. I kind of thought, well, last weekend, the last trip won't mean a lot. It may mean a lot. And Kansas City, and is what they go forward with. And by the way, just tell you what looks ahead this weekend for both clubs. Kansas City is going to be in Fargo this week. Actually, I'm sorry, they're hosting Fargo for 4. And then Lincoln is going to be hosting Winnipeg. So those two will flip-flop, and we flip-flop this weekend. In the next series next week, we jump out of division. We're playing Milwaukee. Kansas City has got Lincoln at Lincoln. Interesting. And then Sioux Falls will go up to Shaw Park to face Winnipeg. Fargo's got Gary. They've got a trip across to the east. It's their 9-game road trip. And really, for Fargo, they desperately need to win tonight and 2, maybe 3 ball games in Kansas City, because they've got a 10-game road trip coming up. Or that is the part of the 10-game road trip. And boy, Fargo could very much be in this thing in 10 games or be buried in 4. I mean, that's where they're precariously close to dropping off the cliff and being with Winnipeg or right in this thing. Anyway, all right, questions and comments for you guys. We'll take them here on the Expresso on a Wednesday. Great finish last night. Sioux City's flat out scary right now. Yes, very scary. But what I think makes this team scary is the little things. The offense is not going to wow you. We've talked about that at length. You're going to roll out 9 big leaguers on your card, but you're going to roll out guys that are gritty. They're going to do what they need to do. For example, last night we talked all about how Max Murphy is Max Murphy. Well, Matt Lloyd, pretty solid ball player too, and you can't pitch him, and you can't pitch him any better than you pitched him, and he hits a home run to tie the ball game. The box score shows the home run, but that was at a crucial junction of the ball game. The other thing I would tell you is, the depth, I think, of the club, you're seeing it. Delvin Zinn running was huge. There was a couple little moments of the ball game last night that that you may not remember if you're watching or listening, because we had the internet issues. But Nate Gherkin was really good last night. I mean, really, really good last night. That's what you've come to expect. Carlos Diaz continues to be what we saw in this league 2 years ago. He was in 2 different, and I talked about this in the broadcast last night. He was in an 18 and a 21 playoff run in Kansas City. Both times won rings by being very big parts of what they were doing. And he's going to be a very big part of things going forward. And I think the little things this club's doing. The pitching was probably not what you'd seen from Tokar. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't great. He was sort of, he was sort of what you got back in June or early July. And I think he was battling a little bit last night. Pitch count got up a little. Suddenly Max Murphy does what Max Murphy does, and that is hit home runs. And suddenly you're behind. That wasn't on Tokar. That was on Acosta. And that was more of a kid who doesn't know the league, probably doesn't realize Max Murphy is the best barrel-up guy in the league. And he's a guy that's obviously maybe not considered a prospect in MLB, but I mean, this guy's a polished hitter. You can't make a mistake on. He made you pay. But yeah, I think it was a great finish last night. It was a great finish, Chris. And walk-offs are fun, and the way you won is fun. But again, that's what this club's done. They've won close ball games. They're not a lot of real laughers on the scoreboard. But what there are a lot of I feel good about moments, meaning at last night when you were even at 7 apiece, I felt pretty good. You were going to find a way to scratch a run out. You found a way that your strength has been, all granted, Chaz Simons had a really good year, but I just felt that your bullpen was deeper and was going to keep you from giving anything up, and you're going to scratch something out, which you did. And that's the difference between Winnipeg, who has a very similar offense to you, but their pitching staff doesn't have what you were able to do. And it was those nights you got a little upside down early, but your bullpen tossed those scoreless innings with Diaz, Gherkin, and Brosher. And that's the kind of thing that's scary when this ball club's playing well. I've seen it across the way, and Chris, you know this. You've seen it as well. That when you get 6, 7, 8, and you're either even or down against this ball club, it's a tough one. You're not scratching out a lot of runs. But I felt really good, and that's what's been fun, is that even this team is in these close ball games, you still feel good. You still feel good that things are going to go okay because you have that strength. You know, you have that ability to get a Diaz, to get a huge strikeout, or Brosher, get a huge strikeout, or Gherkin. And there's some depth, and we'll talk about that tonight on the pregame show. I hear Bates is starting tonight. That'll be fun. Yes, Jason's correct on that. Salmon goes tonight. I think this is a situation where what you do against Max Murphy is you don't want him up in RBI situations, right? Now, the X's 2 nights ago survived him coming up on 3 different occasions of runners aboard. And 3 different occasions, double play ball, bounce out, and I believe the other one was a ground out, or was it a fly ball, and there was a strikeout with nobody aboard. Double play ball, ground ball, walk, strikeout. Now, the strikeout, no one was aboard. The walk, someone was aboard. And it was kind of you tip your cap, take your chances your next batter. They did that last night. Runners aboard in that wind. Didn't matter if the wind or not. It's going to be out. And you wind up, giving up that big inning. I think this is the delicious part of it, Jason, is those great pitching matchups with a good hitter. Salmon's not afraid to throw strikes, and that's the thing. Murphy's not afraid to swing. Murphy's not up there to work a walk. He's up there to hit the ball at the ballpark or get a double or drive in runs. And if the count gets in his favor, he's swinging. If the count gets in Salmon's favor, he's gunning. He's going to try to strike him out. And that creates a really delicious dilemma tonight. It's going to be great to watch. Good stuff. Do you think Bates breaks the strikeout record for the X's? He's close. He's right there now. He's going to, if he stays the course right now, let me pull that up for you, Jason, because currently, this is the game note draft for today. Let me find it for you. Salmon right now is averaging 6.71 strikeouts per game. At the moment, assuming he's got 4 more starts in him, which could be 5. I'm just going conservatively saying 4 because he'd get 140. So he'd break it by 8. He's on pace to break it. He was off pace, but he's back. He's been back on the last 2. Also, Austin Drury has got a chance to get in that 100 strikeout area too. He gets 106 to somewhere in there. He's going to find himself top 5 in single season as well. Quietly done that. I might have told you who's the second most strikeouts. Would anybody have said Austin Drury? Probably not. Boy, it's good. Yes, I like Delicious Dilemmas. I like them too. Delicious Dilemmas are great, especially in baseball. I mean, you in sport, it's always Delicious Dilemmas are great. We have to grab it back up again there. Delicious, yes. I mean, I remember as a kid, I was a college kid. I remember going to a really hot as HE double toothpicks game in late July, early August, where Bo Jackson was playing in the other dugout and Nolan Ryan was pitching. And I remember Nolan striking him out. And I remember sitting in the bleachers in the outfield. Old Arlington Stadium was mostly bleacher seats, right? These tall aluminum bleachers. Old AAA Park been reconfigured for big league ball. And there was no cover. It was hotter. I mean, it's Texas in the summer. Well, you could hear Nolan, ooh, on those fastballs. You could hear Bo swing and miss, and the crowd was definitely silent every time those two would face each other. I remember Nolan striking out Bo, and I remember Bo hitting one in the seats. And the blast, the strike, the sound of that bat was deafening, and the sound of the whiff was deafening because it was so silent. You're like, you feel the breeze in the outfield. Those matchups are phenomenal. That's what makes this game so great. That's what makes baseball so great. You don't get, though, I mean, yeah, football, Tom Brady against his old team, things like that, right? Or the big ones this year is going to be, you're going to be beaten down with it. The Jets and Aaron Rodgers, you're going to hear that all. The Jets suddenly are going to be the darlings, and they're already on HBO Hard Knocks. If you watch any of that, which I love that show, you're going to get plenty of Aaron Rodgers and that whole playing, what he's got, that whole storyline. But you don't get, except maybe in tennis, world-class tennis, your Wimbledons, your Australian Opens, all those, U.S. Open, the one-on-one matchup, and in baseball, the one-on-one matchup. Yeah, the ball gets put in play, your team's behind you, but it's the batter and the hitter. And that's what makes the game so special. There's not a lot of sports like that. Boxing, I guess, is like that. But, you watch the NFL, you watch college football, quarterbacks win the game and the matchup against the defense and all that, but it's still 11-on-11. You have a great quarterback and throw for thousands of yards and running for his life, i.e. Patrick Mahomes in college, right? I mean, so there. I got off on a little tangent there. Let's go back up here. He talked to the riders and encouraged them to keep riding the Sioux City games to finish shortly after ours. Okay. We will see what we can do about it. We will see if we can arrange the games to go like West Coast for you. Is that what you're trying to ask? Is that what you're asking for, Stito? You want the X's games to kind of be at the West Coast window that you got, do you guys remember that? I mean, I'm sure you do. I love the fact that I used, when I'd come home after going to a Ranger game, I'd flip on the Dodgers who were still in the 6th or 7th inning, or the Angels or whatever, the West Coast. I mean, I guess we could be the West Coast window for you. It's kind of like being in Perth in Australia where everybody else has done it. Our first pitch is 7. They've been done. They're wrapping up at 10 o'clock their time. You got a 3-hour window where the entire country is watching you in the West. So, yeah, we'll see what we can do about that. Solomon, probably the closest you've seen to Matt Hall knowing you starting, you're almost guaranteed to win. Yeah, they're different pitchers. Solomon is a little more, the word aggressive I'll use. Matt is more of a surgeon. He's a lefty. That's another thing. He's a lefty. He's a surgeon. He really has pinpoint accuracy, and he's elevation up and down the zone, in and out of the zone, was precision. And Matt was one of the best at develop. Matt Hall, former Kansas City pitcher and also former big leaguer. What he would do as well, he was really good at adjusting to what the umpire was doing. So let's say in the first inning, he was getting that outside corner. Well, he'd work it. Now, he'd flip the script on his second time through and maybe work the inside if it was working for him. But he might, in the middle of that next time through it, he might flip back, go back to the outside again. He was really good at adjusting. If the umpire was not giving the outside corner, he'd work the inside and he would adjust to it accordingly. Or maybe he'd elevate the ball just a little. He had that ability to do that. That's why I pitched the big league. Solomon's very aggressive in a standpoint that he doesn't back down, and he's not going to. He would rather give up the home run, the solo shot, than walk a guy. That's just sort of his thing. Not that he's not thinking in his head, okay, I'm going to give a home run up here, but he's going to pitch aggressively. He's going to pitch to contact. And it's something that you talk about to guys. Pitching to contact is something that it's real hard to get in guys' heads. We're talking about Tokar last night. He finally is confident enough to pitch to contact. A lot of guys shy from contact. They're afraid they get contact, that ball's going to travel and be out of their control. Yes and no. That's why you have a defense there. That's why you throw a 4-seam fastball in some situations and a 2-seam in others. That's why you want a lot of sinking action, because if you're not scared of contact, you get that ball down the zone, i.e. Hall. You get a lot of ground balls. Solomon's going to blow it by you by elevating up and down the zone. He's going to be very aggressive. He very rarely falls behind the count. And if he does, he's not afraid to throw strikes. And that's a mental thing that some guys just can't do. I remember years ago, I've told this story in the air over the times. A guy named Derek Lowe pitched the big leagues a number of years. Derek Lowe was going to go to the big leagues if he could just sort of survive a start in Huntsville, Alabama, pitching for Jacksonville. He had the national cross checker there. The GM was there with the Mariners, and he had a real dreadful outing. Didn't survive the first inning. Well, the next time he was going to get a chance to go to the big leagues and they knew he was watching, he figured it out because at one point in that season, he figured it out. Pitching to contact was not bad. He was nibbling all around the zone and walked the bases loaded. Suddenly had no choice in the pitch to contact, and he didn't last the inning. But I remember him telling me in an interview later on that year and he remember talking to him down the road when he was in the big leagues. He said he figured it out. One day it snapped. Pitching to contact and throwing strikes were not killers for him. So he believed in his stuff. And it was okay that, walks are killers, but you're going to walk some folks sometimes. It's what you do behind it. You walk 3 in a row, that's trouble. You walk one, come back with a ground ball, get a double play ball, that's not. And I think Salmon he's got the mentality now, and I think a lot of that came from being here last year late. I think Steve Montgomery and Bobby Post really helped him sort of say, look, you got it. You've got ability. He went down to Venezuela. It's phenomenal down there. I think that just increased his confidence, getting big league batters out. He's told us that. But I don't know anybody in the league is a sure bet to win a ball game right now. This league is so talented. Every time you say that, look at Kevin McGovern in Fargo. The X has beaten him twice, and he's about as sure of a thing there has been. But Hall was one of those guys you're pretty confident you're going to get a chance to win. I would say Salmon is going to give you a chance to win as well. I think they're just different pitchers. So it's a long way to answer your question, but good question, though, Chris. Let's see here. I got it. I missed down here. Brett says, what makes baseball the greatest sport? Even with the pitch clock, you can't run the clock out. You make the pitch. You have to hit. You have to defend. Yes. I was telling that to Austin last night. The pitch clock is to get the pace of play up, but it really doesn't change the pace of play inside the game, meaning when the ball's put in play, you're not hurrying any faster to field because of pitch clock, right? Once the ball's in play, the game has not changed. Now, yes, how the ball's delivered, how the pace of the play between batters is different, right? But you're right. There's no that makes it unique. And yeah, there's a blurry line there, I guess, but it does change the way the game is played before the pitch, obviously. But yeah, you're right. You're right on. You're right on. Let's see what Rick's got here. Sounds like a good. Yeah, it was a good one. By the way, it clinched the season series against Winnipeg too. Not that was that was not probably going to come up in tiebreaker, but those division wins are the other tiebreaker once the head-to-head's exhausted. So, see you tomorrow, Rick, as well. Don't forget to have your sign. Up goes Explorers tonight, Minutemen tomorrow night. Get my hair, okay? I don't know what Mom's talking about. I know what she's talking about. She's got my brother's coaching a team called Concord. They play football in Indiana, apparently. I didn't realize this. They play football in Iowa, too. Didn't realize that. Just kidding. I'm being snarky. Everybody knows only one place in the world that plays football. Just kidding. Your phone. Home runs and touchdowns. Yes, you'll be doing back and forth, Mom. You'll be back and forth. No doubt about it. What did I miss here? Let's see. I missed anything. Okay, tonight Solomon does go. We've already chronicled that. And he's a fun guy to watch. And I just, his story is great, obviously, in this day and age of what we are as a country and a society and where we are with social media. And he's, embraced his role of what he's doing. He's an inspiration. I've talked about this before in limited time, but he's inspiration. There's some people out there, a lot of youngsters look up to him, and everybody gravitates toward him. I think he's really done things that, I think there's a book here, perhaps. I've told him this before. I think I love to see more guys, grassroots guys, write books. I think there's a great story here. But he's also found himself no longer a suspect, but a prospect. And, somebody's going to give this guy a chance at spring training, and he's going to make a team, meaning a big league team, or pitch in Japan or Korea. He's the kind of guy, too, that we're talking about. You're comparing pitchers, Snedo. He's the kind of guy that would go overseas and say in Japan and be lights out. The Japanese pitching style tends to lend itself to finesse. It tends to be a finesse type thing, a lot of deception with delivery. You think of, Hideki Nomo, Yu Darvish is not really deceptive, but he's got a more fluid delivery, and so does Ohtani. But think of it. Nomo used to have that real windmill thing, and that's sort of a Oceania baseball delivery. But some of the guys have done really well this year, the last couple of years in Japan and Korea too, have been pitchers who either pitched in Latin America or are from Latin America who have that kind of mode, that kind of elbows, knees, power kind of pitcher. And Salmon does fit that mold. He's a power guy, and I think he would be very well versed over there. Devin Keats, the Explorer staff at the beach. That was yesterday. The Explorer staff was at the beach. No, it was 2 days ago. Today is that's the press box crew. That was 2 days ago. Over the weekend, Sunday there were me, all complete. I couldn't figure out why everybody kept walking in the booth with these Hawks cups. I'm like, everybody went to Hawks on a Sunday. Because they were all going to be like me. And then Tuesday was beach. Last night was whiteout, but he forgot Luke forgot to tell Austin and I. And then tonight's lazy wear, sleepwear, pajamas basically. But I told Luke, I said, well, unfortunately, what I sleep in is no shirt, so you're going to be really grossed out by me sitting there with my shirt off. So I did bring something to sort of wear different. But anyway, that's tonight. So yeah. Let's see what Brett has to say here. Definitely keeps the pace of play up, and batter can adjust their batting gloves. Yes, no doubt. Still a 4-hour game on Saturday. Yeah, well, all the hits and runs. That's the crazy game where you guys scored 20. Kansas City scored 13 and lost 20-13, right? Yeah. You can't do anything about that. But what you can do is about the stepping out, adjusting the gloves, adjusting the cup, taking the hat off, wiping the brow, kicking the dirt, spitting, looking to the sky. Hey, we all did it. If you played any little league, you did it, right? You saw the big leaguers do it. As a Pee-wee kid, you did the same thing. You stepped out, did all the things. You saw them do it. I saw George Brett do the same stuff, so I did it. Jim Sundberg was my guy. I saw what he did. I did the same things. So, it's what you do. And 30 hits for the two teams as well. That's what you do. And what you need to watch for, though, this is what's happening is, and I think Mitchell Verberg does a great job of this. Salmon does too, but Mitchell's really good at this. You're watching the 2-strike timeout, right? Almost inevitably, every player who gets 2 strikes on him, the batter steps out and gets his time. We've established that. But once he does that, he is gonna be sitting there for an 8 count for that pitch comes. Because the next pitch from Verberg, he's gonna wait and wait and wait. And once that batter steps in, he can't step out after that 8 count. When he gets to 8, he got to stay in there. He can't step out. He's already called time, or he's going to strike. And you're sitting there, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000, 8 1,000. That stretch, and at that 7/8, that ball's coming out. He's going the motion, and you're stuck there because you can't call timeout. And you're seeing now guys are waiting, and it's a real art And I think Bates Salmon does it too. They'll wait, even if you've got one strike on a guy. Verberg will tend to throw that first pitch, get that first pitch over. Doesn't matter where he is in the clock. Then he gets ahead of you. He'll wait. Boom. And you got to call timeout, and you got the batter, and that's where the advantage goes back to the pitcher, because he's going to wait and wait and wait and wait. And you're sitting there going, you can't. How many times the guy steps out when he's uncomfortable, or he's tired of waiting, right? Can't do that anymore. So anyway. All righty. Tonight, Thirsty Thursday. We're having a little cold brew here. Tonight's also Austin Thomas's last night with us. I had a lot of thinking this morning about this. Everybody in this business, what we do for a living in this business, baseball, sports, whatever, media, whatever you want to call it, had a first break or a first person to say, okay, go get him. And I thought about that a lot the last couple of days. There's a guy, a dear mate of mine, who I look back on, who gave me, he wasn't much older than me at the time, gave me a first chance to be on TV and do packages in Lubbock on ABC TV. Now, I'd had the campus radio station. I'd done that. But I did, some of that. But I had an opportunity. There was two guys that gave me an opportunity dual times. One was a guy that I knew because of the Greek system. He was a rival fraternity, but I knew him. And the other one was a guy that I just kind of walked in and said, "Hey, what can I do? I'll do anything. I'll take trash out." Was my exact quote. And somebody gave me a chance back then to do and put some stuff together. And I put a couple packages together. Before I knew it, I got a chance to do some play-by-play as well in Plainview, Texas, which is north of Lubbock, between Lubbock and Amarillo, and sort of built from there. And I had an attorney with mine who told me just do as much as you possibly can. So somebody had to give me a chance back then. And I hadn't really thought about it, but Austin's doing what Austin's doing is the same thing I was doing at that same age. It didn't dawn on me until really last couple of days that I've been there. And he's really excited. It's been a great summer for him. He's done phenomenal work. I mean, he's worked his tail off. He's learned all the ins and outs of the business, and some he probably didn't want to learn. I mean, tearing tickets is not probably his goal, but he's done it. Scan tickets, I should say. And he's done it with a smile in class. And not trying to pat myself on the back, but I want to say for the organization that's what we're in this part of this business, is to do these kind of things. Speaking of Sid McKay, I see you got a Sid McKay shirt on. Holy smokes. How do I throw a voodoo without anybody seeing? Anyway, a guy's got a Sid McKay t-shirt on. You don't wear those if you're not. Anyway, I digress. But I was thinking in those terms that, am I that guy? Are we those people? We are those people. And I've always believed to give these youngsters an opportunity to kind of, throw them into the media buffet and take a little taste of this and that. When I was in Kansas City, we did the same thing. We moved around and did everything. And if you didn't like something, well, you didn't have to do it. You could just stick to what you were doing. I'm just very proud of Austin, what he's done. And it had me think a lot this last couple of days, because it's been a long time. And somebody said, hey, you know what? Do this. I think of Bill Seitzer, and we're still mates on Twitter and the tech alum, but Bill took the time and put me in the editing bay and taught me, said, hey, go edit. And B, said, hey, well, here's a photographer. Here's a story you can do. Go do a story on this little league coach and put it in the air. And it got seen by my grandparents 60 miles away on the farm. And so I took myself back to that. So what Austin's going through, what he's gone through this week and this season, I hadn't thought about those days for me in forever. But now I look back on it and I realize that, for all of us, we have that point. And I feel like I've paid back my point over and over again. But I never really thought about it in those terms until the last couple of days. I think because Austin was his one-man band, he's the only guy we had. We're supposed to have a couple. We only got one. And unfortunately for him, I got here so late, and we didn't chance to really meet, and I don't fucking know him as well as I probably should because we hit the ground running. But he's done a hell of a job, and I'm very proud of what he's done, and he used to be proud of what he's done. And there'll be very few kids going to be at the University of Missouri in their second year who can say they picked up what they picked up this year. So Austin and I'll tell you all that. First off, thank you, Austin. Number two, he'll be on the air tonight for his swan song, and looking forward to having him on tonight. And he'll be on his way tomorrow. And then good old DB will be the eyes will be sagging. I'll look a lot older, but we're going to make it. So we do. We're going to fight through it. All right. Final questions here. Yeah, I would do that, but they might send me back to college and have him have my job. I can't go through their off season like I went through. Just can't. Oh my gosh. Talking about stress. All right. Pee Wee Reese have been my hero in the TV in the 40s. I'm glad you bring that up. I did not get a chance. We had internet issues last night, and I don't think we're going to get the Sundays of Bobby show on this week like we would. We were supposed to have it on last night. We had internet issues here in Sioux City throughout this side of town, and the station didn't have issues, but we were having them, which also included the tethering was a bit wonky last night. We tethered the broadcast on the phone on a hotspot. Usually that's not a problem, but it was a stressful night. We did not have the broadcast on time because of it, because we kept getting bumped off. Finally got on. I had played last night, and how many of you heard this? But yesterday, in 1949, the Sioux City Cowboys played the Omaha Cardinals in Omaha. It would become Rosenblatt Stadium. My nose itching. Sorry. The first televised game in this region. As far as I can tell, it was the first televised game for Sioux City. Probably, it might have been that way until the Explorers were put on a video stream. At least home. Well, the game was in Omaha. As far as I can tell, I've not seen reports of television games, and I'm still doing some research. So it was the first televised game of the Sioux City professional baseball team here in town. They're playing in Omaha. And what it was an experiment. A TV in Omaha came in existence in August 31st, 1949. WOW, which was a radio station in Omaha, carried the Cardinals, was the big news station, the big mutual broadcasting station there in Omaha. They also had the TV rights, the TV signal. Now, in 1949, they were experimenting with how the thing was going to work. There were only about 2,000 TV sets in, would be eastern Nebraska and then also Council Bluffs area of western Iowa. There were no TV sets in Sioux City yet because Sioux City would not have TV until 1953. So you're still a few years away when the first commercial station came there in Sioux City. But in 1949, you had the World Series on the year before. Chicago, for example, 1947 and 48, had more televisions per capita than anybody in the country. In 1939, you had the first playoff game ever broadcast in 39, the World Series. But by 47, 48, the major markets, Chicago, New York, were getting a limited run of some televised games, mostly World Series games. Well, in 1949, in August of 1949, August 16th, the Omaha Cardinals and Sioux City Cowboys played a televised game, an experimental broadcast that was carried to see how far the signal would go. Now, they'd already they weren't so much worried about how the thing would look visually because they only shot it with, I believe, 2 cameras. They wanted to see how far the signal could travel. And the signal actually traveled, old VHF, UHF, those antennas, went 85 miles to a place called Falls City. Now, Falls City is in Falls City, Nebraska. It's 85 miles from Kansas City, 85 miles from Omaha. This little town had 3 TVs shipped down. One was a guy named Ray who had Ray's Radio Shop. And then 2 others, I believe the mayor and somebody else had a television set. But they had all the people in town, this little town, about 1,200, 2,000, whatever it was. Folks had gathered around the television at Ray's Radio to watch the Omaha Cardinals and the Sioux City Cowboys in 1949. And there was a test broadcast. It was successful. And again, there was only 2,000 sets by August 31st. The station, WOW, there's another station too, get the call letters, that was testing as well. They were testing out other shows. They actually were testing out movies. They're trying to see what kind of cinema they could, how would it look on TV and that kind of deal, and what kind of shows they could put on. These were all going on in August, but this was the day they tested baseball on the TV in this region. So the first televised baseball game in this part of the country was on August 16th, 1949. It was there at WOW, Cardinals and Cowboys playing there in Omaha, and it was mostly to see how far it go. And that signal went 85 miles, successful signal going into Fall City. Now, there was no television sets in Sioux City. That's why I didn't test it up here, because they didn't have a television station. They didn't have a transmitter that didn't have the transmitter go this way, because there was no TVs up here. Not until later on in 1950, you started to see them crop up a bit, and people are picking up television signals from Omaha into Sioux City. They would come up around, Christmas the next year. Overnight, television sprung up overnight in Omaha, and of course would grow to Sioux City in 1949, 1950. And it was over, and they were selling, I believe, 1,000 TV sets a month, starting in September of 1949. So crazy stuff there, but that, you bring up the television broadcast, that was the anniversary of that yesterday. So I tell you all that in our Sioux City baseball flashback here in the show, which, dadgummit, I got to get on here. We're been on way too long. Final call here. Let's see here. Yes, you had a tall TV tower on the farm. I knew that, Mom. All right, tonight, broadcast on A Baseball TV. The internet is back up and running. That actually happened during the night last night during the broadcast. We were on the tether, and the broadcast computer set up to when that signal went live, somehow, some way, it flipped the signal to the hardwire. But when it did that, it dropped us for a moment, and I saw us go down. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I had to rebooted us up. And if I just left it alone, it probably been fine. But I didn't know we got the signal back. We got it back about the 7th inning last night. So that's all good. A Baseball TV tonight. Then the radio side at 6:35. I believe Austin will have the pregame. I'm not sure what Austin's got for us tonight, but he'll be on the broadcast tonight. Middle 3 innings. Look forward to having him as he will do his fine work again on KSCJ. Going to miss the kid. He's been great, man. He's been great. He got thrown into a really difficult situation, and he's passing flying colors. He's got a really bright future. And it's like I've told him before, I don't really care how he sounds on the broadcast. I care what kind of human being he is, and he's a thumbs up, 100% class act. And that's the kind of thing as a bonus parent you want to see. And he's just phenomenal. All right. You guys ready for some 1, 2, 3 go X's here? I'm ready. You're ready. Psalm of the night. Bates going. I probably should tell you who they're going to throw tonight. It's going to be, I've got Tyler Jandron, 1-6 and a 5.45. Tonight's Thirsty Thursday. You don't want to miss that. Thirsty Thursday. By the way, thank you, Sioux City, for supporting this ball club. Once again, good numbers last night at the gates. 2 nights in a row. Say what you want to say about Little Sioux City. Folks care. It's good to see. All right, 1, 2, 3 go X's. You guys ready? I'm ready. Got to get the ballpark and get working. Here we go. Get cracking. 1, 2, 3 go X's. I'll see the broadcast. Night, everybody.